And now we're going to introduce our speaker online. Stanley Maszczak is a Novitiate Minister at the chapel, as well as a transpersonal coach and facilitator. His work has been greatly impacted by his journey navigating through and out of the fundamentalist religion in childhood and early adulthood. As a gay and gender nonconforming person, he served in the military for more than 20 years during both the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy era and after its repeal, spending his last several years as a senior non-commissioned officer working in equal opportunity and harassment prevention and response programs. Stanley joined the chapel in January of 2018, has served as a past board president, and currently serves as our newsletter editor. He enjoys speaking, teaching, and helping people navigate life's challenges as they remember more of who they are and who they come here to be. So I'd like to welcome Stanley. On Zoom.
Can you hear me now? All right. Good to be with everybody today. Sorry for that little delay. Very grateful for the modern technology we have. We've got a huge winter storm coming through DC this afternoon, this evening. So I wasn't able to be there in person today as much as I wanted to be. Wanted to talk a little bit about, especially going with that understanding of seasons happening all around us. I'm going to talk a little bit about seasons, about our lives and how they are comprised of various seasons. We can witness the seasons all around us, kind of mimicking the ebb and flow of those changes in nature, mimicked inside of us, inside of our lives, inside of our emotions, inside of our mental states, inside of how our body feels at times. And on our metaphysical journeys, we can explore these seasons and how they impact us in different ways as one additional way we can make meaning of things in our lives and do it from a conscious perspective. So if you follow the wheel of the year, as Reverend Flynn helps us celebrate the solstices and equinoxes each year, and there's other cross-quarter holy days in between, marking the midpoints between the winter, the beginning of winter, the beginning of spring, the beginning of summer, the beginning of autumn. And as we notice, we can link those all together with the four elements that mystics and seers and practitioners have observed over time: air and fire and water and earth, and thinking about how those infuse different aspects of our lives and understandings in each moment. So we can think about them just from those four different seasonal aspects, and we can think about them also as those four seasons kind of condensed down into other areas of life. We can look at the lunar cycle, the moon, as it goes from dark moon or new moon all the way through to full moon and then back to new moon again over about a 29-day period. You can kind of view that and the quarters in between as the rising of the moon and the setting of the moon, the rising of the spring and the setting into the autumn, into the winter. We can go even more granularly and think of how all of these link back to perhaps 4 points in each day, with different indigenous traditions around the world interpreting them in slightly different ways. But one way of looking at it might be starting out at midnight, overnight, imagining that and its relationship with winter, the darkness of the longest night of winter, and how we connect to the element of earth at that time. You can think about that at each new moon that we have every month. We see the moon fully darkened, not being illuminated by the sun. So we move through midnight into the early morning hours. We can see that at sunrise, we have that first glimpse of newness of life, similar to spring, similar to the element of air, as we start to feel that spring breeze cover our skin. We start to see the moon grow in that first quarter of the moon as well. So we move through sunrise, we get into the morning hours, and we hit that noon point, that point of The sun being at its highest point of the day, or the sun being at its highest point with the longest day of the year at summer. You think of that summer fire. We might see that full moon illuminated at summertime. And then as we move through our day, through the afternoon into the sunset, we can think of how that also relates with autumn, with fall, with that watery element that connects us with our emotions. That third quarter of the waning moon starting to approach being a new moon again, completing its cycle, heading toward rejuvenation and sleep, that time of cultivating and rebirth. So we can look at all 4 seasons we experience on this beautiful planet. We can look at all of those experienced throughout each day of our lives, each month with the moon. You could also link it to a single hour, looking at the top of the hour, the first 15 minutes, the bottom of the hour, just half past, and 15 minutes till the new hour. You could see that same cycle, that same growth of quiet, building, fullness, and then starting to diminish again back into that quietness. Or you may feel it's more supportive for you to start the other way around, starting out at the top of the hour, being summer, that bright point, and going the other way. Whatever meaning comes through for you that makes sense to support you wherever you are, it's all there to be tapped into. All of these things that we can have a tendency to take for granted at times, the passing of time, the ticking of a clock, the rising and setting of the sun, the rising and setting of the moon, the seasons, warming, cooling, becoming more wet or more dry. All of these things have links that we can look deeper into as metaphysicians, as people who are willing to be open to see the magical in even the most mundane of things in our day-to-day lives. Could link these cycles even down to a single breath if we wanted to. That full, just starting at the bottom with that full exhale all the way, all the air out of our lungs, imagining that as winter, as earth, as the quiet of midnight, and then inhaling, taking in that first breath of fresh air, that spring, that new life, and holding it at that top of the inhale, that lungs fully expanded, fully illuminated, full moon, that lightness, that summer, that fire. And then exhaling, letting it all go, that autumn, that just releasing, getting darker, allowing the mist of our breath on that cooler air, bringing forth that element of water even in our breath. That's time of sunset. We have the opportunity to be witnesses of the wonders of nature, of the universe, in every breath, in every moment, in every hour, in every day. With the turning of our world, the changing of our seasons, noticing how that shifts the view of the stars and the constellations above us, how our ancestors could gaze up at the sky and notice all that was taking place and all that created in their lives, and pass that down through generations to us today. And one thing I notice is that even as we look up and gaze at the stars or the trees or the season or the sun or the moon, all of this is happening without our effort. The world turns, the planet orbits the sun on its own, so we don't have to worry about any of that. All we're invited to do is notice, to pause just for a moment so we can notice, so we can be present to the seasons and changes and the mysteries and wonders happening all around us, to create those conscious spaces of pausing and reflecting, so we can make that meaning from a place of conscious awareness, from a place of deliberate choice to align with our divinity as we make that meaning, to align with our divinity as the unique expressions of source that we all are. Because we're making meaning in every moment, whether we're doing it consciously or not. We're interpreting, we're relying on the interpretations that have been given to us. And if we can create more of those moments of stillness, of meditation, of opening, of pausing, of perceiving that which is beyond perhaps the physical eyes, or even perceiving more deeply that which is in front of our physical eyes. We see the tree in front of us, but do we see the fullness of the tree? Do we see the energy of the tree? Do we see the history of all the things that tree has witnessed in its lifetime? Do we see how deeply the tree is connected through its root system into the earth, communicating with other trees and other plants from miles and miles away? Are we able to create these times of connection, pausing, so we can see the divinity of all that's around us, to engage that divine creativity that's within each of us, the creativity we all came here to embody and be and express in the world, this world that we are creating and making new in each moment? So if we know that that heavy lifting is all taken care of, none of us needs to serve as Atlas holding up the world. All we have to do is take a step back and a pause and notice how the world is being held. Consider how our world is being held. The full universe, the full world, and the universe that we are creating and experiencing in and around us in our own unique lives, in our individual lives, our families, our relationships in each moment, our lives in each breath, each day, each week. With our divine creativity, we can also notice how different parts of our lives can be in different seasons all at one time. We might be simultaneously creating something new in one area of life while mourning the loss of something older or different in another area. We can be bringing a part of our career to a close, completing that aspect, season of closure and transition, while also experiencing the birth of something new in our spiritual life, for example, and experiencing all the fire and passion and newness that comes with that. Or we could be starting an exciting new career in our lives and simultaneously feeling like spiritually we're entering some sort of dark night of the soul. Both can be true and real and happening at the same time. And both might require different kinds of energy and attention from us if they're going to be honored and given their rightful place in our lives, instead of one or the other taking charge and pushing the rest out. So, in those sometimes challenging times of our lives, it can be helpful to remember a few things. One, there is magic happening all around us all the time. The world turns in its orbit. We perceive the sun rising and setting. We see the trees growing and blossoming and dropping their leaves in the cold of winter and regenerating in the ground and then giving birth to new leaves and light in the springtime. We see all of that happening around us without any effort on our part. And it all can happen. Seasons can change. Beauty and the wonders of the divine can happen without us noticing at all, or they can happen with us noticing and appreciating and connecting with that energy of magic and transformation and transmutation that's happening all around us. So that is happening around us all the time. I choose whether I notice or how much I notice or the degree to which I notice or what I notice from it. If I'm experiencing a challenge in one area of life, one thing I might ask myself is, what season is this? Sometimes the challenge is not because of the thing we're experiencing, but the interpretation we're thrusting upon it. Maybe something's ready to fall away and die and pass on and be transmuted into something totally new and different, but we're holding onto it and trying to make it a springtime season. We're trying to make that something new when it's ready to just fall away. Or sometimes we're trying to let go of something. We're trying to push it into the dead of winter when it's begging for attention, begging for the fire of summer, begging for newness of life to be breathed into it, to take a new form. So sometimes in the pause, we can ask ourselves, what season is this in? And the last thing we can ask is, what magic can I notice in this moment? What magic can I notice in this moment? Take a walk in nature, take a walk in a park, gaze at a tree, at a branch of a tree, at a leaf on a tree, and just appreciate the divine expansiveness of the universe made manifest in that tiny expression of God, of Source. When we start to train ourselves to see the magical and the mundane, so much of our world can open up. We can see things in ways we haven't before. We can find solutions to things we didn't realize we had solutions for. We can innovate at a rate not ever seen in our life history. It's up to us to make that choice, to see the newness in every moment. My prayer today is that all of us can cultivate this on even new and deeper ways. So I'll leave this blessing with you today. May we find the magical in the mundane, and may we learn to hold the vibration of that magical so well, so strongly, so applied in the mundaneness of our lives, basking in that energy of unconditional love, unity, wisdom, brilliance, and higher vision. And may we live in that vibration so consistently that we and our descendants inhabit that space and find that new space to be our version of mundane. That our descendants may know no other level of mundane, but this higher level, one that we created first in our vision and brought into our physical reality today. Amen.